On today's episode of Southern Character, I am joined by Georgia Peach Nan Henson, who is also known in some circles as Enneagram Nan. For the past 20 years, Nan has immersed herself in researching the Enneagram as a student, a coach, a teacher, and authorized workshop facilitator, all certified through the Enneagram Institute in Stone Ridge, New York. Nan is also a daughter, a wife, a mother of 3, and my mother-in-law. So, before you unlock the secrets of the Enneagram, I thought it might be fun to begin with a few things that we have in common, starting with your daughter, Amanda. I don't know if you know this. This is coming up in October is our 5-year anniversary. So,
I do know that.
We're pretty excited about that. So other than Amanda, I think the one thing is pretty neat. One commonality that we have is that in college, we both played in a band.
Yeah, James, but you played an instrument, a real instrument.
Well, hold on.
Hold on.
Wasn't there a tambourine?
That's what I was going to say. I played a tambourine.
Okay.
You played a guitar.
Sure, but still, we have that. We share that bond.
Yes.
In college, so you went to Georgia.
Yes.
What was the name of your band in college?
Well,
or did you have several bands that you?
It was a band that played at a little bar.
Okay. Which bar? Is it still there?
I'm not sure if it's still there. Okay. It was Between the Hedges. So
what a novel name.
Yeah, I know. Imagine that.
Right.
And actually, there were several that came through through bands. One was the Fox Trots. Yeah, I know. How wonderful.
Was this based on the foxtrot dance?
No,
like the jitterbug,
it wasn't.
the foxtrot? Okay.
But the lead singer was last name Fox.
Okay.
The other one was the Rabble Rousers.
Okay. Because you're all so wild back in the day?
I mean, how corny.
What was your favorite song to play? Did you have a favorite song?
Anything by Derek and the Dominoes.
Wow.
Yeah. Give
Derek
me Layla all day long.
Okay. Okay. Well, the other thing that we have in common, especially as it relates to the Enneagram, is that we are both a type 2 personality type.
Dominant
AKA
type
the helper.
2. Dominant type 2.
So I think that's a fun way to kind of get into it. So, go ahead.
Well, one other interesting thing is that I'm married to a dominant type 6.
Okay.
And what type are you married to?
I'm also married to a 6.
Yeah.
Now, and I don't know if that was, by design or on purpose, and so people might be listening right now and they might be thinking to themselves, what is the Enneagram? What is a type 6? What are these people talking about? And like I said at the beginning of the show, you've been on this journey for 20 years. And even though I would say I started my Enneagram journey about, it's 2024 right now. I would say it's probably 2019. So probably about 5 years ago is when I really got turned on to it, because no big secret, that's around the time that I met Amanda, and she started telling me about the Enneagram. And I was like, wow, what is the Enneagram? And I was kind of on this path of, wanting to become more self-aware. And so Amanda thought it might be a good tool for me to start to use. And so, like I said, I've only started to scratch the surface, but you are an expert. So I think you can probably do a much better job telling people maybe a little bit of the history behind it and the origins, and kind of like take us through the timeline of the Enneagram and kind of what it's all about.
Okay. Well, when we talk about the Enneagram, it's really a combination of ancient wisdom and modern psychology, spirituality. The symbol itself dates back to 500 BC. And the Desert Fathers, the Sufis, were instrumental in the ideas embedded in the Enneagram.
I mean, so just to say that it is an ancient symbol would be an understatement. I mean, just one of the names that were popping up when I was Googling around was like, oh, it's Pythagoras. I'm like, the Pythagorean theorem. And then because there's so many numbers and so many laws,
shapes.
right? And shapes and geometry. And so I was like, oh, and I saw Pythagoras. But yeah, like ancient Greece,
Yes.
like 500 BC.
Yeah, and the word itself is Greek. It's comes from the word enea, which means 9, and gram, which means, or gramos, which means model.
Right.
So it's 9 points on a circle, 9 points on a model or diagram.
Right. So if you envision the Enneagram, there's the circle, right?
Yes.
As far as the symbol goes, there's the circle, which you said symbolizes unity and wholeness.
Oneness.
Right? Oneness. And then inside of the circle, because I don't want people to think that these images expand outside of the circle. So contained within the circle, a triangle.
Right.
And you said that pertains to the law of 3.
3, that's correct. And the law of 3 says that every force has an affirming, a denying, and a reconciling force. Every object has that.
And then the third piece of the symbol, and you may have had, I had to kind of get out the high school geometry book. It's the hexad.
Yes.
And hexad, 7.
Yes.
The law of 7.
That's correct, which is everything's in transformation.
Okay. And I think in a couple minutes, maybe we can get a little bit deeper on the law of 3, the law of 7, the path, and certainly the points around the circle and what they all mean. But before we go there, why don't you talk a little bit about the modern day Enneagram and how from ancient Greece to today, kind of that, I don't want to say the transformation, but bring it into the modern day. Like, how did that happen?
Right. George Gurdjieff is the father
of the
Enneagram.
Okay.
And he lived in the 1800s, the late 1800s to the mid 1900s.
Okay.
And he was a Greek Armenian. And he is responsible for bringing the symbol, that ancient symbol from the Sufis and the Desert Fathers and the Egyptians, and to the modern world.
Okay.
He was also associated with a system called the Fourth Way.
Okay.
And the Fourth Way means doing your work as you live it, instead of the way of the yogis or the way of the fakirs or the way of the fox, the sly man. He is the one that said, you got to do your spiritual work in your daily life.
Okay.
You can't go live in an ashram.
I was in Austin the other day at a conference, and I heard someone say, you have to go through it to grow through it. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Like you have to put things into practice and live in your daily life, like walk the line. Basically.
That's it. It's actually, if anybody can meditate when they're on the top of a mountain.
That's really easy.
It's pretty
when you don't
easy.
have 6 kids
That's right.
screaming at you. Right.
But can you keep your presence about you?
Okay.
When you're in the middle of screaming kids.
Right.
That's really what his Fourth Way teaches.
Okay.
And then after Gurdjieff, we kind of trace it back through Oscar Ichazo. And he's the one that's the modern Enneagram of type. Okay. The modern Enneagram of personality types.
So when we talk about personality types.
Yes.
Now, Oscar Ichazo.
That's right.
The Bolivian philosopher.
Yes.
He's the one that is really credited for that.
Yeah, with putting those names around the symbol.
Okay.
Putting the types.
Right. And we'll go into those personality types in a second because I think we need to help people, visualize that. So Ichazo was, credited for that and putting the system together, in this like modern, what we're calling the modern synthesis of ancient wisdom traditions. And so, okay, but who else, was part of this?
And then a student of Ichazo's was Claudio Naranjo.
Okay, so Naranjo was a student.
Yes, okay. Right. And he kind of put everything together on the symbol and with the descriptions of it as well. Okay. Kind of developed that part of it. And then it just grew. And my own teachers, Don Risso and Russ Hudson, added to that. Don is particularly responsible for the levels of development.
Okay.
He expanded of what's that gray area between polarities, between our best self and our lower self.
Okay, so if we take one step back, Don Rizzo and Russ Hudson, those two founded the Enneagram Institute.
That's correct.
In New York, and that was, I think, back in 1997, I believe is the date I saw. So they formed the Enneagram Institute, excuse me. So that's been in existence for almost 30 years.
Yes.
Okay.
That's correct.
And so this is a real place, a real thing.
It's in a barn in Stone Ridge, New York. Yeah, it's great. And I did my trainings there.
Okay.
And I did one in Georgia, but the other two were up at Stone Ridge.
So we talked about that at the beginning of the show. So you did the training to be a coach, a teacher, and a workshop facilitator, and that was one of the questions that I had. So you did a workshop in Georgia, but you also did work in New York?
Yes.
So how much time did you spend in New York?
Well, oh my gosh, I spent a good bit of time there. You go there for an intensive 5-7 days.
Okay, like an immersion.
An immersion,
Yep.
right. And then you come back and you practice your work.
Okay.
And you do your work. And there are 3 training session immersions. And it was over 3 years. And there's also things you have to complete to be able to graduate, to get your certification.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do almost thesis type work.
Wow.
To do that.
Yeah, so I was joking around the other day. It's and nothing against real estate agents, but it's not like, hey, I'm a bartender and now I want to be a real estate agent, so I'm just going to go read a book and take a real estate test. I mean, there is a certification process, at least associated with the Enneagram Institute.
With the Enneagram Institute, there is.
Okay.
There's the Enneagram in the last 10 years, 5-7 years, has exploded, and there are. You can go online and find any kind of teacher you want.
Okay.
But there really is a process.
So it doesn't sound like you're endorsing that.
I'm not.
Okay. And we can tiptoe around it, but I think for any topic, the internet can be a dangerous place.
That's right.
So notwithstanding, it can also be a dangerous place for the Enneagram. There's a lot of misinformation, you feel?
That's correct.
Out there?
There is. But there's also, because it is growing, there are also a lot of really good schools and really good programs.
And you just made something pop in my mind. And it's okay if we're a little flight of the bumblebee here, because I think as twos, we maybe tend to be that way. Lord knows, I can go off topic. But I guess what I was going to ask you, because you referenced this a second ago, is there's been a surge of interest. Mm-hmm. Why do you think there's been a surge, a greater interest in the Enneagram that would proliferate all these people, providing information about it? What's the catalyst behind that, do you think?
I think people like to talk about themselves.
Well, I know I do. Guilty.
And I do believe in times the Enneagram has surfaced over the many, many years in waves.
Okay.
And we believe that the Enneagram appears when it's needed.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know about you, but I can't think of a time in our lives or in history that we need something like this to understand each other more than right now.
And and I think that's a great transition into one of the things I want to talk about a little bit, how we understand each other through the Enneagram. Before we do that, just again, to paint a picture for people to understand, because we talked about the symbol at the very beginning of the show. If we think about the circle, I'll just walk through this because if I can explain this to myself, I can certainly explain it to Jet, my 13-year-old who's graduating from 8th grade. Can't believe it. So we start with the circle, and then we put the 9 equidistant points around the circle. So there are 9 equidistant points around the circle, but at the top of the circle, like the midpoint of the top of the circle, that's type 9. Mm-hmm. And then from there, clockwise, going around the circle, we label 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 9.
Around.
And then once we have the 9 equidistant points around the circle, now we go to the triangle, right? So we can start at 9 at the top of the circle, and we can go from point 9 to point 3 to 6 back to 9.
Correct.
And that's, at least for the triangle, that's the direction of integration.
Right.
Or growth.
Okay.
And then the hexad, which is the 7 piece, from, I guess this was interesting. I saw this online and you could tell me, I didn't realize this. If you take 1 and divide it by 7, you get, the answer is, if you have a calculator, if you're out there listening, grab a calculator and take 1 and divide it by 7. And what you should see is 0.142857 repeating.
That's
it
correct.
repeats. And so if you start at type 1 and you follow that calculated result from 1 to 4 to 2 to 8 to 5 to 7
and back to 1.
And back to 1, that's the direction of disintegration.
And I would prefer, we don't really refer to it as, Don is sorry that he used the word disintegration.
Okay. That's kind of a rough word.
It is.
I was like, oh, God,
it's a little rough.
Okay.
We call it the direction of stress.
The direction of stress. And the opposite direction from 1 to 7, 5, 8, 2, 4, back to 1.
Right.
That is direction. A positive direction.
That's right.
That's the direction of growth.
Growth and integration. Okay. Right. We don't mind integration.
So I think it would be fun. So because we've been talking about types and personality types, and what was the Bolivian philosopher's name again? Ichazo. He is credited for these 9 personality types. So I think it'd be fun to kind of go through the 9 personality types, and I'll just say what the type name is, and maybe you shout out a person that is kind of like that. Would that be a fun game to play?
It would.
It would. Let's go around the circle and talk about each personality type, and then maybe we can take it a level down to the centers and go from there. So type 8 really resonates with me. Type 8 is called the challenger.
Right.
Okay, so tell us about the challenger. Tell us a little bit about
first of all, why would the type 8 resonate with you, James?
Because I just never back down. If somebody gets in my face, I'm just like, you know what, you want to do this? Let's go. Like, let's do it.
And knowing what you know about the Enneagram, why would you resonate with the 8?
Why would I resonate?
It's your direction of stress.
It is my direction of stress because I'm a 2.
Yes.
And when I go not in my direction of disintegration, I love that when I go in my direction of stress, I go straight there.
That's right. And straight so do I.
Yeah.
Right.
It feels like home to me sometimes. Even though it shouldn't.
I don't like to claim it, but it's there. So we call the 8 the challenger, and they are powerful, dominating. I mean, you feel their energy when they walk in the room.
Okay.
Very self-confident, alive. They're, it's like, I want everything and I want it right now.
Okay.
There's an immediacy about the 8. I want it right this minute. They can also be confrontational. They can be willful. They are the most natural leader on the entire Enneagram. So when you think about an 8, you can think about Martin Luther King.
Okay.
And Martin Luther King is an 8, and his I Have a Dream speech is an 8 speech. Because 8s take care of their people. They can see a dream and know that we can do it together. So together we can do this. And I'm on your side. I will help you. So there's strength in the 8. Another one would be Pink. And you can kind of see her energy.
Okay. You definitely can.
Yeah.
You can see her energy. Now, I think it's important to clarify as we continue to go around the circle. My understanding, and please correct me if I'm correct me if I'm wrong. Everyone, first of all, the types are not gender specific.
Right.
Obviously, you just went from Martin Luther King to Pink, or both 8s. But everyone has one base personality type.
That's right. Correct? Home base. It feels like.
So 2s are home base.
Yes.
Okay. So.
But we have all types within us. All of us have all 9 types within us.
Right. But we just have one dominant.
But when we can understand the parts of us that are just like those strong-willed 8s, then we can begin to develop compassion.
Love that.
For that. And so the Enneagram is truly a map of compassion.
A map of compassion. So who's next on the map of compassion? What type do we have next? I want to make sure we go in order.
Oh, okay. It's the 9.
So we're going to 9. Okay, so The 9 title is the peacemaker. So tell us about the peacemaker.
Yeah. They're nice. They're kind. They're very pleasant. They're not puffed up at all. They're very unassuming, but they're reassuring. You just feel comfortable and safe and comfortable.
Just a nice calming influence.
There's an ease about a 9. That's exactly right. Their essence, their best quality is one of wholeness. They believe that everything belongs, everything and everybody, nature, animals, we are all a part of it, of one whole. And so nobody's more important than anybody else. Okay. Where they get in trouble is they begin to feel like, oh, what I have to say doesn't really matter. So I kind of step back and I don't voice my own thoughts, my own ideas. I have a laziness of self-remembering. Each type has a passion. Passion comes from the word passio, which is what makes you suffer. For the 8, the passion is lust. It's, I'm going back to our 8.
We can go back to the 8. That's fine. We can go wherever you want.
That passion is lust. It's about a lust for intensity. We're not necessarily talking about sexual lust, but it could be a part of it. 8s want intensity. 9's passion is sloth.
Sloth. Okay.
Lovely. But it's not that they're lazy.
So they're lust, sloth. We're talking about the deadly sins.
Yes, we are.
There's Charlie.
Yeah, I know. It's not laziness. It's a laziness of putting myself in the picture.
Okay.
Right. It's kind of a disengagement. So who we're talking about is Norman Rockwell. If you think about his paintings, you can see it's like 9s take a snapshot and see the whole situation. Okay. So when you see Norman Rockwell's painting, you think of the doctor's office or Thanksgiving dinner. Click. His paintings create a wholeness, a whole scene. We say Whoopi Goldberg is a 9.
Really?
It's hard, I know. It's hard to understand that, but 9s can also be angry and they can show a lot of intensity at times. But most often, they want to get along. Okay. They want everybody to get along. So she does that.
All right. So now we're going clockwise around the circle. 8, 9, now we're on 1, the reformer. So what's the reformer all about?
Boy, this is the rational, idealistic. It's the one that I know life has a purpose and I can find that purpose. I'm very principled. Think of Joan of Arc too. But they can also be very self-controlled and very almost perfectionistic, rigid, live between the lines. And you should too. The essence, though, of the essential quality of a 1 is one of goodness. It's, I know that we can be better. If we just move a little higher, I know we can be better and I can show you the way. But their passion is one of resentment. It's, I must be the only adult in the room. I guess it's up to me to do all of this work. You often feel that kind of huff around a 1. And we're talking about what happens when I'm under stress. When I'm going down the levels in my own type. This becomes more stress I get, the more tight and controlled I get.
And since you made that reference, I think because we're going to get into this is a great time to get into it. Within each type, and we're not trying to number you to death. It is just it's a very number heavy.
It's a number heavy system. Within each type, there are 9 levels. That's right.
Of healthiness.
Yes.
So 1 through 9, like basically if you break it up into 3s, 1 to 3 is healthy, 4 to 6 is average, and then 7, 8, 9, that's when you start to hit an unhealthy level. So you can be, a healthy 1. Right. Or you can be an average 1 or it can be an unhealthy 1.
Right. Okay. That's right.
So that's good to know. So let's move on to our favorite. Oh, sorry. So who are examples of type 1?
Well, Nelson Mandela.
Okay.
You can see how he would be a 1.
Yes.
Willing to suffer for the good. And then there's Martha Stewart. it's a good thing.
Yes.
It's not great.
Right.
It's not horrible.
Right.
It's a good thing.
It's even keeled.
Even keeled. Yeah.
So we love the twos, the helper. This is Nan. This is James. But tell us. I mean, and we love talking about ourselves. Yeah. Tell us more about the twos.
Yeah, the helper. This is the most loving type on the entire Enneagram. All types can be loving. Twos just have it a little bit in spades. It's dominant. It's our gift. It's our strength. Our essence is one of unconditional love. Most generous, but that generosity and caring and love can turn into people-pleasing. Even a little bit of possessiveness. The exemplars we use for the two are Desmond Tutu. You can see that sweetness, that love that he has for everyone. And the same thing about Dolly Parton.
Dolly Parton.
Yeah. She's a two. The passion, what gets us in trouble, what makes us suffer, is pride. Because twos know how to help others, but they begin to believe that they don't have any needs themselves.
Right.
So I don't have any needs, but I know exactly what you need.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm fine.
How can I help you?
How can I help you?
Got it.
So it's a pride of feeling that I don't need anything. You're laughing.
You're striking a chord with me. So type 3, the achiever.
Very adaptable. If twos know how people feel and what they have this an attunement to how others are feeling. Threes have an attunement to what others value. And so they know what is valuable to other people.
Okay.
And they are very adaptable so they can become what other people value. The problem is they can lose themselves.
Lose themselves how?
By trying to be what other people value, to where they don't know what their own heart's desire is.
Okay.
But they are successful. They are the glory of the Enneagram. They're the stars. They're the ones that land on their feet. You often see them as Olympic athletes.
Okay.
They're willing to put in the work to become an ideal. They also, you often see perhaps televangelists. So because they know what other people value and because they lose their own self, they end up compromising and might have a really big public fall.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I may have experienced a fall or two in my life. Now, before we move on to 4, and I know we want to talk about some of who the 3s are, I had a question, and we don't need to get into this today. Believe me, I think we can do a whole other show about the Enneagram and go deeper than we go today. So we talked about, when we were talking about the 8, we were making a joke about the Challenger. When I get stressed, I go to Challenger. But as a 2, when I'm on the circumference of the circle, to my, I guess if I'm sitting on the circle, to my right is a 1 and to my left is a 3. And I was reading about wings.
Yep, those are your wings.
So as a 2, I have a 1 wing and a 3 wing because those are my adjacent types. So can you talk a little bit?
Only kind you can have. You cannot be a 2 and have a 7 wing.
Okay, so what does it mean to have a wing?
All right, I look at wings as a flavoring packet.
A flavoring packet?
Yeah.
Like powdered lemonade that you put in the water and it flavors my water.
Flavor.
Okay.
When you have a color wheel, say blue when you see blue, but there are 500 different shades of blue. If you're a 3, you know what a 3 is, but there are 500 different shades of 3 as well. And which direction you lean kind of colors what that 3 looks like. If I'm a 3, I can have a 2 or I can have a 4 wing. So if I lean more towards the 4, I look a little different than if I lean more towards the 2.
So how do you know which wing you lean towards one?
Usually it's what makes most sense for you. And we have both wings.
Okay.
We have access to both of those wings pretty easily. My wing is, I'm 2 with a wing 3.
Okay.
Because I resonate more with the three properties. Plus, if you take the test, which one between 1 and 3 scores higher? That could be. It's not always, but it could be a clue. So
I think it's good, even though we still need to talk. We're going to work our way around the circle. But since you just mentioned the test,
I'm just going to look at yours to see.
The test that is available, at least through the Riso Hudson, the Enneagram Institute program, is the Riso Hudson Enneagram Type Indicator Test, RHETI.
The Ready.
RHETI. And you can go to the Enneagram Institute website, and you can, I think it's because I just took it again recently because you have my results.
Yep.
So it's $20.
Yep.
And you take the test, and when you take the test, it'll give you a breakdown of your scores.
And so much information.
So much information. It's almost like a deluge of information. But when I was looking at my scores, Nan, my 1 and 3 were equal.
Okay, so a lot of people have equal wings.
Oh, so you can have equal wings.
You can.
Okay.
You can, which means you can draw on both the strengths and the challenges of both of those. It means you'll be familiar. It will sound, it doesn't feel foreign, these types to you.
Oh, no. Believe me. If I look at the 3 and the 1, I felt like I've definitely worn both hats. So what's the passion of the 3, and who are some examples of the 3?
Okay, the passion of the 3 is vanity.
Okay.
I begin to believe my own press.
Amen. This is why I'm starting with, Southern character. I mean, I'm really starting to believe like I'm important now.
There you go. Okay. Yeah, I a little bit of the Pinocchio syndrome.
Okay.
I can exaggerate. Yes, a little bit of that. But my essence, again, is knowing my own value and knowing the value of everybody else around me. One of the best examples I love to use is Oprah Winfrey, because one of the highest qualities for 3 is that of mentorship. Mm-hmm. 3s love, when they're at their healthiest, they love to help others. They love to help others. Are you laughing?
No, I'm just thinking about Oprah, like, I'm a 3, you're a 3, we're all 3s. No, I love me some Oprah. Sorry.
Yeah, I do too. Okay. And if you think about it, at her last program, she had all the men from Morehouse College that she had put through school paraded in and lined the entire stage, all holding a candle.
That's amazing.
She was overwhelmed because she hadn't kept count of how many people she had helped put through school. It's like her angel network and her Habitat for Humanity and her building schools in Africa. All of those things, those are the highest qualities of the 3. Sting is a self-identified 3.
Okay. Self-identified.
So, yeah.
He didn't take the test.
He did.
Oh, he did. Okay.
Yeah. No, he knows Russ. And So
really? So Sting hangs out at the Enneagram Institute?
Well, I think Russ lives in New York.
Have you ever played tambourine with Sting?
No, I have not.
Okay.
I'm trying to think if I did at our party. Oh.
Well, you definitely did at our wedding reception.
I know I did that.
I remember that.
Okay.
Okay. So let's see. We're going to move on now. We're moving on to Type 4, the individualist.
Right. Very sensitive and very in touch with themselves. They know themselves pretty well. They're expressive. They're very honest. They can be dramatic and they can be temperamental and self-absorbed as well. But everybody that has a teenager at some time or another thinks their teenager is a 4. Mm-hmm. Because they're drama.
Yeah, pure drama.
And you often think of the 4s as the tattooed or goth or pierced because they're trying to express themselves in a very unique way. Like, don't tell me I'm just like you.
I'm different.
I'm different than you, and you don't know what I am. But their best quality is their depth. Their ability to see beauty in everything.
So these people are like artists.
They are. There are a lot of the artists. Think if you were laying on the beach.
Okay.
And there's no ambient light around. And you look up at the sky and it is covered in stars.
Mm-hmm.
And it almost takes your breath away. It almost brings tears to your eyes because it's so beautiful. That's how forests feel about everything. That kind of
passion. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Depth and beauty. But their passion
Speaking of passion, what is their passion?
Yes, it's envy. What makes them suffer? It's you have something I didn't get. It's you have a wonderful life and all, you have a husband, you have a family, you have a white picket fence, and I didn't get it. If I had it, I wouldn't want it because that's so plebeian.
Yeah, that's not me.
It's just, right. I wouldn't want it. But there's this envy within me that feels like if I just had what you had, I'd be okay.
Okay. That's fair. So who are some examples?
My favorite author in the whole world is Madeleine L'Engle.
What's your favorite book?
She wrote Wrinkle in Time.
Right.
But I like her adult novels best. I think I like Walking on Water. It's a wonderful book. But whenever I read her books, I think, oh my gosh, if I could have just said that. That's what I mean. That's what I would say if I had those words. Okay. So they express things that we can only feel. Johnny Depp. Boy, can you see that?
Yeah. I can.
He's a 4.
He's a total 4.
With a side of 4.
All right. So the next on the type 5, the investigator.
Right.
Now, I read somewhere, and maybe I read this wrong, but I think I read somewhere, and again, there's so much information or so much Enneagram information on the internet. Are type 5s the rarest type?
A lot of people do that, but
okay.
Type 5s don't show up at workshops.
Type 5s don't go to workshops. Okay, so tell us about the type 5. What the investigator?
They're probably not. They're not that rare. I mean, there's probably as many 5s as there are that they don't identify themselves. They don't come to this.
Okay.
They'll do their own individual research and figure this out if it rings true to them or not.
Makes sense.
Yeah. But actually, all types in the world we feel are fairly even.
Fairly equally represented.
That's right.
Okay.
Equally represented. So the investigator is very intense. They're also very heady, cerebral. They take an idea from here and an idea from here, and they put it together, come up with something brand new.
Okay.
There are inventors, but they can also be secretive and isolated, and they want to be by themselves, so they seclude themselves away. But their essence, the essence of who they are, their greatest qualities is one of illumination, one of clarity. They can shine a light on things and explain it in ways and understand it in ways because they don't get attached to one answer. They can hold it all and kind of let the faults fall away.
Okay.
Truly brilliant. Very comfortable within their own mind. So we have Albert Einstein.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah. And Georgia O'Keeffe. She would be another one. The other one that I think is a great example is if you've seen the movie A Beautiful Mind.
Russell Crowe.
That would be the character
No, I know the
Russell
character.
Crowe is playing. That's the high and the low of him. That the beautiful mind, you can get so caught up in your mind that you go in a spiral.
Yes.
And you're writing all over a blackboard.
One of my friends who I work with, Wes, often makes a reference to me and says, "James, you have a beautiful mind," because sometimes I get caught up in the swirl, but it's nowhere near a 2 and it's not on my path.
Right. Well,
so my path of growth goes to a 4, but anyway,
there is another little pairing, but that's
well, so we'll go there.
Yeah. And then the passion for a 5 is avarice. It's kind of a stinginess. It's I don't have enough of myself to share with anybody else.
Because I'm so in my own head.
I couldn't do the important things I need to do if I give you my emotions. So I'm going to hang on to that part of me. I can't.
So very introverted. Like I don't
a little bit more introverted. Okay. You can have some extroverted 5s as well, but they're always holding on to their emotional life.
Okay. So 2 more to go.
Okay.
You got type 6, the loyalist.
Yes. This is responsible. They care about safety and security, very security oriented. They're engaging. They can be friendly. People like to be around them, but they can also be very anxious and very suspicious.
And so this is your husband,
Yes.
Ham, my wife, Amanda, your daughter, Amanda, my wife, Amanda, both 6s.
That's right.
Super anxious.
Super 6.
So anxious.
Yes. And their
So
focus
cautious.
of attention is what could go wrong.
100%.
It's what could possibly go wrong.
Amanda always describes herself as, when she told me what a 6 was, when we were just getting to know each other, she said, I am the kind of person that walks into a movie theater and the first thing I look for are the exits.
Yep.
What can go wrong here?
Yep. And not only that, she would already have noticed the guy in the back row.
Right, with a hoodie. Yeah.
What do? I go into the movie theater and I'm looking for, where's a great seat?
Right.
Oh, I want to sit right here in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Let's,
Right.
Have I even noticed
Yeah.
any of the other?
Yeah, she's checking for the Unabomber in the back row. And
That's right.
who's going to light the fire and how am I going to get out of here?
Right.
And is my phone on silent mode because
That's
I don't want to bother
anybody
else.
Exactly.
And and as soon as the screen says silence your phones, immediately silence the phone.
Right. Yes.
Yes.
But very loyal to the people that they love. Very loyal, very always going to do what they say they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Very responsible. Their essence quality is one of awakeness. It's like a sentry on a hill. It's like I'm standing up on the hill and I'm looking out.
Okay.
And I can see what the next step is. That's when I'm healthy. That's when I'm present. I have that inner guidance within me, but I don't trust it. And so I substitute doubting and worry for that inner guidance. And I think if I just think of all the bad things, I'll be prepared and then I'll know what to do. But if they're really present, even in a crisis, sometimes that's who you want to be around because it's like, oh, well, the worst has happened. I know what to do.
I'm prepared.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I think about all the family trips. Then we go to the beach and Amanda has her, man, she's such a Girl Scout. I mean, because she brings the first aid kit and the Neosporin and the ointment. And are you really bringing, ibuprofen and the thermometer and all these things? And someone has a slip and fall and she's like,
I got
what
we need.
I got it.
I know what we need.
So the passion makes sense
is
to me.
Fear.
Yeah.
It's fear. Or Ham says, I don't resonate with fear as much. I was an airborne ranger.
Right.
I jump out of airplanes. I went to war.
He fought in Vietnam. Ham doesn't strike me as a fearful
it's not
person.
Fear. He said, but angst, anxiety, He said, fear is sitting around a fire and seeing eyes out there in the woods and thinking, oh, God, there were wolves out there.
Yep.
Anxiety or angst is sitting around the fire and thinking, I know there's no eyes, but there are wolves out there, I'm sure.
There. The shark's in the water.
That's right.
Okay.
But he doesn't identify with the fear part of it. So anyway, but they are who you want to be with in a crisis. Ham at 9/11, I don't know if Amanda's told you this or not, but he sent out a memorandum to the entire family telling them what to put in their go bag, where we would meet, a list of all of the phone numbers of everybody in the family, everything what to do.
And I'm going to bet, and I'm fine for this to be a larger sum of money, I'm willing to bet that he didn't come up with that like just the day that it happened. No. I'm willing to bet that he had this doomsday list ready to go and just like, literally, here's the moment. It is. Boom. Like, okay. All right. So who's an example of a 7? A 6 other than my wife and your husband?
Right. And it's interesting. Something interesting about women, 6 women, is there oftentimes were tomboys growing up.
Amanda
they can be
so.
Girly girls as much as they want. Think Julia Roberts, Ellen DeGeneres. They're just comfortable in a ponytail and a T-shirt, as they are.
Yeah. No, that's totally Amanda. I mean, she soccer.
Right.
Played soccer in college, but
that's exactly
can also put on a ball gown and
wears high heels
Cinderella
better than anybody I
Yeah.
know. Rocks those heels. And Bruce Springsteen. If you think about him, he's been with the same band.
The Boss. Yeah.
His entire life, his entire career.
Very loyal.
Very loyal. He and Bono, both. are 6s. Both of them had the same band. Same wives, I also think.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's just a really interesting. They're great examples of that.
All right, so we're going to round it out with type 7, the enthusiast. And this was one of my higher scores, and I was kind of conflicted about this. And you helped me kind of decipher between 2 and 7, which we can get into. But first,
right, 2s and 7s are often misidentified.
Okay, so type 7 is the enthusiast.
That's correct. They are looking for variety. Give me 37 flavors. I want to go to Baskin-Robbins and just put the pink spoon across them all.
This is like the thrill seeker, bungee jumper, scuba diver, skydiver. I want to do it all.
Right. I want everything. I want to try everything.
God, sounds like Jake, my youngest son. I mean, it's like we go to the beach and he wants to kick a soccer ball while he fishes.
Yes.
And throw a cast net and play lacrosse. I'm like, dude.
Choose something. No, because choosing boxes you in. If I choose something, then I don't have any other options. So they're very spontaneous, but they can get real scattered as well when they're overdoing their type. Their essence quality, though, is one of joy, pure joy, freedom, potential, possibility. They're the ones that can see what is possible and help us find that as well. Everything they are grateful for, and they see joy. Gratitude, gratefulness is big quality.
When they're healthy.
When they're healthy.
When they're healthy.
When they're healthy.
That's big clarifier.
Yeah. Their passion, what causes them to suffer, is one of gluttony. It is, I want everything.
So overindulgence?
Overindulgence. All of it. Give me everything.
Definitely been there.
Yeah. Robin Williams, you can see the two sides of the 7 in Robin Williams.
Yes.
Because everybody's invested in the 7 being the Energizer Bunny and keeping everybody up all the time and the life of the party. But they also need someone to share their pain with. 7s are very impatient with pain. Anyway, so Robin Williams would be one exemplar, and Amelia Earhart, adventurer, explorer. A lot of the explorers.
So since we went pretty, no, I don't want to say totally in depth, but I think we got good coverage on the 9 different personality types. And when we were talking, going a little deeper on the Enneagram, but before we recorded the show, I was really questioning, because when I looked at my results, right, my highest score was a 2, but then 7 was also up there. And I wasn't really sure. And you talked about you take this test and then it's easy to misidentify. And I think what really crystallized it for me, where I realized I'm definitely a 2, was when we started to get a little bit more in depth on the 3 centers, the instinctive center, the feeling center, and the thinking center. So can you talk us through those 3 centers and why? Well, and I can also kind of talk about my own epiphany, but let's just break down each center, because each center contains 3 types.
That's right.
Okay. So
that they prefer. There's a preference for that. Okay. 3 types have a preference for one of the centers.
Okay. So we won't start with us. We'll start with the instinctive center.
Right.
So the instinctive center, or the head center, or the gut. Tell us.
It's the body center.
Okay, the body center.
Yeah. The instinctive center or the gut center.
Right.
Belly center.
Yeah, so
right. It's right there. It's located right there in the gut.
Right.
It's that part of you that the instinctive center is about me and my environment. It's about boundaries and resistance to boundaries. So the 3 types in this center all deal with boundaries and resistance to boundaries.
And so the 3 types within that center are the challenger, type 8, the peacemaker, type 9, and the reformer, type 1. So those are the 3 in the instinctive center.
The main thing that the instinctual center is looking for is autonomy and respect. That is what I want
That's
above
what they want.
everything. Autonomy and respect.
I crave that.
That's what I want. And my orientation is one of, I don't want to be messed with. I don't want to be messed with. And if I am messed with, then the primary emotion that comes up for me is anger.
Okay.
And I express that, or I manage that anger in 3 different ways. If I'm an 8, I'm going to express it. I have a friend who's an 8 who says he's also calls himself an express hole.
I like that phrase. An express hole. Okay.
Yeah.
So an 8's going to like just let it rip.
You know when
They're
an 8
angry.
is angry.
Yep.
Angry. They don't hide
suppress it. They just go.
That's right.
Okay.
But if I'm a 9, it's like, I'm not in this center. I couldn't possibly be in this center. I don't have anger. I don't even feel it. Well, I am spending so much energy pushing it down that it's running the show in the background. It's running everything I do because I'm trying so hard to keep everything even. Calm. And if I'm a 1, anger's not a great thing. So I'm going to keep it between the lines. I'm going to keep it in control. And it comes out as more.
Is it delusional though? Can ones really control anger, or do they just think they can
they
control
think
anger?
they control.
Got it. Okay.
And so they try.
So like a healthier one realizes they can't, but they try, but
they realize that anger is a part of life.
This is just part of the game, but if I just keep it right here.
But in my mind, I judge anger. Anger is not perfect. People that express anger are not perfect. They're not acting rationally.
Okay.
So that's the body center.
All right.
The heart center, the feeling center,
right?
The relational center. It's about me and my relational life, me and my relationships. So what I'm looking for is attention and validation. I want autonomy and respect, but I would never give up attention and validation to get autonomy and respect.
So for the feeling center, attention and validation, and I'm not saying Trump, I even hate to use that word, but like basically Trump.
It trumps everything.
It trumps autonomy and respect or anything else. Like
it does.
I don't care what you got. If you give me this.
This is what I'm looking for.
Right, I want attention and validation above all.
Right. And so I'm searching for it everywhere, just like I'm searching for that autonomy and respect everywhere. And so what my orientation is, see me the way I want to be seen, not the way I am.
See me the way I want to be seen.
Right. And when I'm teaching, I do this. How do I determine how I'm seen?
Okay.
It's what you tell me. So it's a mirror that I look at, but what I'm seeing back is your reaction.
Gotcha.
That's how I determine if I'm getting the attention or validation that I need, or if I'm doing okay.
Okay.
And the primary emotion that comes up for me, if I don't get that attention and validation, is shame or sorrow.
Yes.
Or sadness. It's like, oh, I guess they don't really care. Or if they really saw what's really underneath, they wouldn't like me. So I can't really show anybody who I am. I have to manage it.
If they saw the person behind the curtain,
that's it.
They might not like that.
The wizard behind the curtain.
So I'm gonna not show that.
That's right. I'm just gonna manage it. So how do I manage it? It's a 2. I am loving. I'm so loving. I'm caring. I'm very helpful and loving, so that you're going to want me to be there.
Okay.
If I'm a 3, I'm going to be excellent. I'm going to be the best, so that you're going to want me around.
So I'm ashamed, but in order to combat that, I'm just going to show you that I'm top dog.
Yeah. I'm the best. Yeah. Right. And I'm going to work to really be that. And I really think of myself as the most loving as well. It's not, most of this is unconscious until it's not. Most of this is just working underneath. And if I'm a 4, I'm going to be so unique. Nobody else has the perspective that I have.
Yeah.
And that way you're going to see me as important. Give me that attention and validation. Okay. The head center.
Yeah. So the third center, the head center, the thinking center.
Right.
Okay. What does the head center or the thinking center crave? What do they want more than anything?
Yeah, and this again is the 5, 6, and 7.
Okay,
what they're always looking for. They're searching for safety, security, and guidance. That is most important. They don't care don't give me that attention and validation. Yeah, I mean, that's nice. It feels good. But I need the safety and security. I need to know what's expected. I need to know what's going to happen. That's more important to me.
I feel safe when I have those things.
When I have those things, I feel safe. And so I'm always looking. My orientation is one of who or what can I trust?
Okay.
So I'm testing everything. Is this trustworthy? Is this trustworthy? Are you a trustworthy person? Can I count on you? All of those things. I'm always searching for that. Yep. And if I don't get that, the primary emotion that comes up for me is that fear, angst, and anxiety.
Right.
And so if I'm a 5, I'm going to manage that. I'm not investigator. I trust my head. I trust myself to put everything in my head and figure stuff out because I know I can figure things out. So if I can just get the information, put it in my head, I'll trust myself to do it. If I'm a 6, I think somebody out here has information that I need. It's not that I already have it in my head. It's out here. So I'm going to check Google and books and an authority figure.
Right, a subject matter expert.
A subject matter. Okay. That's right. And if I'm a 7, then that anxiety feels like restlessness to me. So it's like, I got to move. So I'm just going to go to the next thing. I'm going to plan the next thing. I'm going to get into planning. Does that make sense? And so the thing that made you, when I asked you that question, I said, one of these centers resonate with you more. And you said, well, I can strike one out right away.
Yeah. So I was kind of grappling with who am I? What am I? But of the 3 centers, the one that I immediately nixed, didn't have a problem dropping it, was the thinking center. Apparently I don't think, but I just don't care that much about safety and security. Right. I never really have. I've always just been kind of out there, and you know what? All I need is a toothbrush and a t-shirt, and I'll just figure the rest out when I get there. So I immediately struck the thinking center. That was off the table. And then I was kind of grappling back and forth with, what do I crave more? The instinctive center, do I crave autonomy and respect more? Is that what I want most above all things? Or do I really want attention and validation more? And the more I thought about it, it became very obvious. I really crave attention and validation. I want to be the center of attention. I want people to tell me how great I am. And so, that's kind of what pushed me over, I guess, the 2 edge. Yeah, right?
It is. It's not the easiest thing to see about ourselves, but it's true.
Well, and I think you have to be
willing
in a place in your life where you're really willing to be honest about yourself, because look, we go through, I've been through several work trainings.
Right.
And the one that I did most recently was actually down at Serenbe with one team and a really interesting guy by the name of John DeFries. He was wonderful. But it was really all about, you had to write your own script, tell your story. And it was amazing how after I went back and looked at the story after 3 days of being in this full immersion, it was just you see yourself in a certain way. Yes. And then there's the way that others really see you. And it's kind of finding that common ground. But I don't want to get off on that tangent. But the point that I was trying to make there is that in order to say something like that, for me to say something like, I totally crave attention and validation more than I crave autonomy and respect, I have to really be willing to look inward.
That's right.
Within.
You do.
And so I think the other thing that's, at least at this level, because I think the second episode that we do, I think we do definitely need to do a follow-up episode. But I think it's good to talk about the levels. And we can just, again, we love talking about ourselves because we're 2s. So as a 2, we can be very healthy at a 1 or very unhealthy at a 9, right? Everywhere in between. But you talk to me about set points, right? So somewhere on that scale, most people have a set point.
And it's usually, most of us kind of hang out in that average range.
So the 4, 5, 6 range.
That's right.
And is there any way... So we talked about the RETI test, the RHETI, the RETI test. how do you become aware of your set point? Like, how do you know where your set point is?
That's so good. Yeah. That's a great question. Because, and this leads right into what I really want to emphasize, is it's about building your inner observer. It's about being aware of yourself. I have to be aware enough of myself to know that I'm under stress, or that that I'm taking on qualities that are not my highest, my healthiest. And the way you do that is by practicing presence. Everybody asks when I coach individuals is, okay, so I know all this stuff. What do I do now? How do I do? There really is.
How do I put this in practice?
Yes. The most important thing about the Enneagram is to learn how to be present, because most of us don't. Once we become aware of what our patterns are, it's finding out what our automatic patterns are. Then we have an opportunity to do something different. Viktor Frankl has a quote, between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. But what do? We have stimulus, react. There is no space right there. We react, and we react based on our patterns, our automatic coping mechanisms, all the different ways we've learned to protect ourselves. We react on what our habits are. So when we can build our awareness enough to be present enough to take a breath and say, I might want to choose another response, then we might choose to do things a different way. We may not.
So you're saying what Frankl is saying is, okay, so I'll say it again, between stimulus and response, there is a space, or at least there should be.
There is. Yeah, there is.
There is a space. And the more we're attuned to that. Right.
That's right. And how do we do that? How do we become more aware?
Right.
There isn't a do. It's pay attention. It's awareness alone causes change. Every now and then, not very often, hardly ever, I wear a Fitbit.
Okay.
If I...
Can't wait to see where you're going with this.
If I notice on my Fitbit that I've only done a third of the steps I should, and it's the end of the day, I might, when I go to the grocery store, park at the end of the parking lot. What changed?
You were aware.
My awareness of where I am.
Okay.
And it was not my willpower. It was my awareness. I still have a choice. I can still drive around and find the closest parking space, but then I have a responsibility for it. I'm not doing it unconsciously.
Right. And at the beginning of the show, because sometimes I'm a little overzealous, we got a little bit ahead of ourselves, but we said, even this gets back to the set point. So just assume, like, everybody, your default's a 5, you start at a 5. It's not that you operate at a 5 all day long.
Right.
You there's a range.
Yes.
Right. So you can, during parts of the day, if things are going a little bit better for you, you might be, kind of up around the 4 level, maybe pushing 3, or, if you have a really bad meeting, or
right, and you're angry,
you step on the kid's Lego or whatever it is, then maybe you dip down into a 6, 7.
All within a few hours.
Right. Or just over the course of the day. So you told me the key really is through awareness.
It
right?
is.
Is raising that set point. So it's not about, if someone that, I want to win the trophy, it's not about being a 1 all the time. That's really, and is that even really achievable?
No, because a 1, our type, is what gets in our way.
And when I say 1, I don't mean I don't mean going to being a reformer. I mean, if I'm a 2, my healthy level is to unhealthy level. Right? It's not realistic for me to expect that I can, as a 2, I can operate at a level 1 perfect health all the time.
You might possibly glimpse a level 1.
Right.
There may be some people on earth that have been at a level 1. Maybe.
You get a whiff of it.
You get a whiff of it.
But the driver here isn't to operate at a level 1 health all the time. You really want to raise your set point. Right.
The more present I am automatically going to rise up the levels in my own point.
So if I can move up the health scale to like a set point 3,
Yeah.
then I might kind of dip into average some days, but I'll be really healthy
That's
also
right.
well.
That's right. And
there.
it's just recognizing that if we can do our work by paying attention, by being honest with ourselves, by becoming aware of what I do on autopilot all the time.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that I do? Then we have an opportunity to show up as our best self. We have an opportunity to offer our gifts to the world rather than our facade. We can offer our true self.
So I think, look, we covered a lot of we covered a lot of ground today. So where I think we can wrap it is just going to ask you a couple of questions. So for people listening today, right? Let's just say, okay, well, they heard this podcast and they're interested about knowing more. Should they start with reading a book? Should they start with a ready test? Should they sign up for a workshop? If someone has never really delved into this before, what do you think is the best place to start? And for lack of a better, I'm not trying to be, pardon the pun, but the right path to follow.
Well, yes.
Okay.
That's what they should do. Read a book.
So
take a workshop.
What do you think is the best book as a starter?
All right. That's a good question. Great question. I recommend any of the Russell Hudson, but my very favorite book, this is to me the Enneagram Bible.
Okay.
It is The Wisdom of the Enneagram by Don and Russ.
Okay.
It is a little bit like a textbook, but it has everything in it.
So the two founders of the Enneagram Institute, Don Rizzo and Russ Hudson, they're the authors of The Wisdom of the Enneagram. And you can just find that on Amazon.
That's right.
Google that.
Another book that I think is just fabulous.
Okay.
It's called The Enneagram Made Easy. A lot of these books are kind of light, and this one has really correct, good information in it.
Okay. Now,
this is written?
Who wrote
Elizabeth Wakely. She died a few years ago. But it's accessible. It's got hilarious pictures in it. It's really fun if you're it's a fun thing to talk about.
It almost looks like that series of books, like, Carburetors for Dummies.
Yes,
I mean,
it is.
It has that same kind of like yellow cover. So The Enneagram Made Easy,
right,
by Renee Barron and Elizabeth Wagle.
Okay.
Wagley,
yes.
Excuse me.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so the two books.
Those are great. Any of the Enneagram of Don and Russ's books are good.
Okay.
They've got 4 books that are excellent. And James,
well, I'm sitting in your office right now. You have at least 8 bookshelves plus baskets. Yeah, there's just a ton of stuff over here. Let me ask you this. I mean, we talk about presence and awareness. Now, I know because I've been at your house, you have a labyrinth in your backyard. What do you do most
for my
when
own?
When you want to be present, do you meditate? Do you breathe?
That's a great question too. Yeah. That's really the question for how do I do this? As a 2, I find it easiest, and a lot of research has found that 2's like something that I can kind of get my hands around instead of just sitting to do. I do that as well. I do 20 minutes a day of meditation. Not every day, but walking the labyrinth is so helpful for me because I can actually feel my body. I can put my body into it. I can get out of my head, allow my head, heart, and body to work together, be more balanced in it. I love that. There are
that makes sense.
Really a lot of ideas for building a presence practice.
Yeah, I've been focusing more on breath control, breathing.
Yes.
Really just, I guess it's called belly breathing, but breathing through my nose only, filling up my belly, relaxing my shoulders. And if I just take a couple of deep breaths, like if I'm really stressed out, like I just had a very stressful meeting, if I just pause for a minute, check in with myself, I know I'm peaked, right? I know the needle's in the red. I just, I take a couple of breaths. And the other morning, I was at the cabin and when I have my best moments of clarity is when I'm calm, and I just went out into the yard because the yard was a mess, and I got out the lawnmower.
Yep.
And instead of using the auto drive bail on the lawnmower, I revved up the lawnmower and I pushed the lawnmower around my yard.
You got in your body.
And I just breathed through my nose, and I controlled my breathing. I could smell the grass. I could feel the wind. And
That's
I was just
That's
really
a presence practice. And what we say in the Enneagram world is you practice it when it's easy. So it'll be there for you when it's hard. And that's why you try to build a practice so that when things are out of control, you can come back to it.
Well, look, I know this may have felt very scattered, but it's really hard. I mean, it's really hard. There's so much to talk about, and there's so much to unpack. But I think, starting at a really high level, I think we'll definitely do another show and maybe go a little bit deeper. But thank you so much for being with me today and inviting me to your office. I think this is super helpful, and I think a lot of people are really going to like it. So if you want to hear more about this episode, you can find this on retiresouthern.com. But if people wanted to, hey, they have questions, they want to get in touch with you.
Yes.
Are you doing workshops? How would someone get in touch with you if they would have a question?
Well, I'm having knee surgery soon, so I've kind of taken a hiatus on my workshops, but I'm still doing individual coaching. So if anybody has questions or wants to, you can always reach me on EnneagramAtlanta.com.
Okay, so EnneagramAtlanta.com.
Right. And also my email is nan@EnneagramAtlanta.
Okay, awesome.
.com. Yeah.
So your website is Enneagram.com.
It's Enneagram Atlanta.
EnneagramAtlanta.com is your website. And then your email address
is nan@EnneagramAtlanta.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome. So there isn't really a bad place to start.
Not at all. And James, it's just been such a fun time to connect with you over this. It's really been, I've really enjoyed it.
I wonder how many mother-in-laws and sons-in-laws, connect through the Enneagram, but I think it's great for us.
But wouldn't it be great? Isn't it a great way to speak each other's language?
It is.
Even though we speak the same language, we can learn to speak others. Right.
No, and I think with this is also kind of going around the family because, Amanda has a sister, an older sister. Amanda's the youngest. So Amanda has an older sister, an older brother, and there's Ham, and there's you. And then, Jill's married, Rob's married, and then there's, I don't know how many grandkids, right? But it's really kind of neat the more you put this in context and being able to speak each other's language.
And to have compassion.
Yeah.
Right. To learn each other and to realize we're all just doing the best we can.
Yeah.
So.
Well, look, we're definitely we're going to do it again. So you can find this podcast of Southern character and more on retiresouthern.com, or you can follow us on Instagram at retiresouthern. Thanks so much, Nan, for today. And I hope we get to do it again soon. Thanks.